This is The Early Show on CBS.
In Sydney on Tuesday, a Bulgarian weightlifter was stripped of his silver medal, and an athlete from Belarus was kicked out of the Olympics, both after testing positive for drugs. Although those drug convictions were the first of these games, it is widely believed that a lot of athletes in Sydney are using drugs without any fear of getting caught. Dr. Wade Exum used to be in charge of drug testing for the U.S. Olympic Committee, but he resigned from the post and has since claimed in a lawsuit that the USOC isn't really interested in stopping performance drug use. His attorney is John Pineau. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
Doctor, why do you say that USOC efforts to stem the use of these drugs is pretty much a sham?
Well, in my experience, over half of the athletes that we tested positive in our program, and we know that we don't catch everybody, but those that we do catch, only half of them were sanctioned.
What are you telling me? Over half of them are using drugs?
Over half of them that we catch were sanctioned. What I'm saying is that we know that we don't catch everybody, and I can't give you a figure for how many are using drugs.
Give me a roundabout estimate. How many of the athletes in Sydney would you say of our U.S. contingent are using drugs? Well,
the figures that I have heard from the CASA report, the Center for Addictions and Substance Abuse report, are that up to 80 to 90% of athletes could be using drugs. Another estimate was that 5 out of 8 athletes are possibly using drugs out of a San Diego researcher.
You were in charge of it. Why didn't you stop it?
We did as much as we could given the rules that we had to operate under. And basically our rules were set by the International Olympic Committee and the U.S. Olympic Committee.
I assume you took your complaints to the top?
Oh, absolutely.
And when you did, what happened?
Basically, they were either ignored or they were just buried.
So you're telling me that we have an awful lot of athletes in Sydney that are using performance-enhancing drugs, that you knew about them using performance-enhancing drugs, and the USOC is looking the other way?
That's my opinion.
What's your response to what Dr. Joyner's saying?
Well, I think that, first of all, I'm not talking about the same substances that he's talking about. I think that he's talking about some recent changes to the IOC rules that allow for the use of a lot of these things. I worked at the USOC for some 9 years, and the substances that he's talking about are not the ones that I'm talking about in my reports.
So you're saying that you found substances that were stronger that were being used?
Oh, absolutely.
And that officials were looking the other way?
You bet. Not only that, but, you know, from what he's saying, you should be able to use these things. Right now, the rules still state that those things are on the list, they are banned, and the rules also call for sanctioning when somebody is found using it.
Dr. Joyner? Let me bring in Greg Strock, because he was a member of the U.S. cycling team. Now he, too, is planning to file suit against the USOC for allowing his coaches to inject him with mysterious substances without his consent. He, too, is represented by Mr. Pineau. And Greg, good morning.
Good morning.
What mysterious substances are you claiming were given you?
At this point, I'm not claiming any particular substances. All I can claim at this point is that what was told to me is not true.
What did they tell you they were giving you?
They told me I was frequently told I was given vitamins or an extract of cortisone, and there is no such thing.
Why'd you take it then?
Because I was 17 years old and had no idea there was no such thing.
And there's no such thing as what? Extract of cortisone?
Correct. Cortisone is a steroid. To have an extract, there's got to be a mixture. It was either a steroid or it wasn't.
Is it possible we're just talking about a semantic difference here, that the person who gave it to you just didn't know the proper terminology?
In my opinion, no.
Why only now, 10 years later, you're filing suit?
Ironically, I ended up going to medical school, and in second-year medical school, became fairly enlightened in that through my pharmacology course, that things just were not meshing in terms of what I was told.
But that, too, was what, 18 months ago? Is that correct?
18 months ago, correct.
So why only now are you filing suit?
Obviously because of the implications it might have, the consequences of former teammates being very prominent. After talking to my wife, considering the implications, several times I considered seeking the opportunity, but only after I saw Dr. Exum's lawsuit did I feel that the avenue was there for me to do that.
One of your former teammates and part-time roommate is considerably prominent, yes?
He was not my roommate, but he was a teammate.
Lance Armstrong?
Yes.
Were other teammates given the same mysterious substance as you were?
I do not know. I never saw any injections or any consumption of these vials.
Were you led to believe the injections were fairly common?
I would have no reason to believe that as a member of the national team that other members wouldn't have been given the same substances.
Did you never discuss what you were taking with other cyclists on your team?
No, we didn't. We typically, what happened was this occurred on the massage table in closed quarters.
Dr. Joyner, I realize that all federations for each of the sports are fairly autonomous, but how closely are the actions of coaches and trainers of a specific sport, for example, cycling, monitored by the USOC?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question, Bryant. This particular issue, when I was told about this today, I discussed it with other members of the USOC, and this is the first time we've ever heard this allegation at all. And I will assure you that the USOC and their attorneys have launched an investigation of this allegation. But I've also learned prior to this broadcast that this particular coach who worked with the junior team virtually immediately upon knowledge of the national governing body, they fired this coach and was released immediately when this action and these actions that this coach was doing were brought to their attention.
I've only got about 15...
Or they found out about it.
I understand. Thank you. I only got about 15 seconds left. Yes. What do you two hope to gain by your lawsuits?
Well, I think that what I'm hoping to gain is a change in the perception there. There's this whole plantation mentality that needs to be changed at the USOC.
And Greg,
to me, there could be other athletes. I don't know what the future holds for my health. I don't know what I was given. And there may be other athletes that have the same experience.
Let me let that be the last word, but of course we'll stay on it. Dr. David Joyner in Australia, it's late there. Thank you for joining, sir. I appreciate it. And here in New York,
thank you very much.
Greg Strock, John Pineau, and Dr. Exum, thank you all.
Thank you.
Very much. Coming up on 14.